I'm Tommy Cows, and this is Dragonheart. There you go.
Well, I spy with my little pie something beginning with Dragonheart. Welcome, everybody. I am your host today, Bill Long, and joining me is Mark Griffiths, Neil Williams, and we have a special guest with us today, Humphrey Ker. How is everyone?
Very well, thanks.
I'm
Great
surviving.
stuff.
Don't you worry, Bill.
We've got a few things to talk about today. Obviously, we're going to have a bit of time with Humphrey first before we get started, and then there's just a little matter of 3 wins in what was it, 4 days for the Wrexham team. So this is Dragonheart.
I'm Luke Young, and this is Dragonheart.
So Humphrey, nice to finally meet you. How's the I don't know where to start with this, really. How has it been this season in League Two for you so far?
It's been good, I think, overall. I mean, it sort of depends on when that question is asked. As of this moment in time, being Thursday, the 9th of November, around 9 minutes past 6, very good. Yeah, we find ourselves in 3rd position, albeit a couple of teams below us have got games in hand that could theoretically push us down to 4th or even 5th, I think. But we've started the season in after a sort of a bit of a rocky up and down start by our standards, which you could say we've had the last 3 seasons in a row in a way, albeit that the rockiness this season was a bit more spectacular with conceding 5 goals at home 2 games in a row, virtually, whatever it was. We're now sort of coming into the winter period in a position of real strength. It feels like the last couple of weeks we've seen some of our best performances of the season. 2 amazing away wins in quick succession, one in the league and one in the cup. And yeah, everybody's feeling, I think we're all feeling our oats, if that's the phrase. Is that a phrase? We're not spreading our wild oats, that much I know, but but there's something oats related that we're doing that's good.
That's very wholesome, I must say. Yeah. Are we, in your estimation, ahead of the curve? Did you really? I mean, it just feels it was always going to be wonderful, and that's always the idea, isn't it? That we're going to accelerate quickly. Have we got here sooner than you might have expected?
That's a good question. I think so, and the reason why I say that is because I think the quality of Stockport in particular, and Notts County, and a couple of the other teams around us this season, Mansfield, which we hadn't necessarily budgeted for. I mean, there was a lot of talk at the end of last season. Oh, Wrexham's going to go straight through, and Notts County will as well. And Stockport, obviously, have been a great team for a few years now. They had their takeover a little bit before we did, and we always felt like they were a little bit ahead of us. So, I mean, obviously you can't do this, but if you take them out of the equation, where Wrexham are is blinking good, and possibly ahead of where we thought it was going to be. But I think we always, huge credit has to go to Phil and Steve and Chris Johnson from our scouting department for constructing this team in the National League that was really seriously very good. I think on the documentary the other day, Ben Foster was talking about what he saw of this team when he came in, and suddenly being like, oh, this is a League One team, really. This is essentially. And I think that we probably, on balance, maybe are, a League One team in terms of quality. If you work on the same proviso that the top of League Two is better than the bottom of League One, in the same way that the top of the National League maybe was better than the bottom of League Two. So I'm very happy with where we are. I think I was hoping we'd do well this season. I was confident, keeping together a core group of players who'd played together, won a championship together, got on as well as our players do, because they are all very, very close with each other, and it seems like a very happy ship. All those things were good. And then, the players that we've added, in James McLean, and then Arthur coming in late, and George Evans have all brought something to the table and all, performed as we'd hoped they would. So another classic long-winded answer from me. I'm very happy with where we are. I think I thought we'd be here. Was that what my answer said?
And on the women's side? because on the women's side, I mean, there's real root and branch change. And
Absolutely.
it's fabulous, isn't it? What's happening with them? Is that ahead of schedule? Is that look? It feels for me, you know, I started this season thinking let's bed in, and now I'm thinking, could we win it? You know, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would just like, look, the main objective for this season for the women's team is consolidation, and you know, if we could finish in the top half, great, that'd be tremendous. And you know, similarly to sort of Stockport, I suppose, you know, Cardiff have had a little bit longer to sort of get their ducks in a row and create a culture there, and you know, they've got the sort of hotbed of South Wales football to draw from. But I'm thrilled where we are, and I think that, you know, there isn't more than an outside chance that we could, you know, we're 3 points off the top, you know, virtually halfway through the season. So it's or certainly halfway through phase one. So yeah, very happy with that as well. Very smug, this podcast interview.
Too right.
All very good. We've done well. I'm clever.
Humphrey, you're like, you know, you're the sort of the spokesman for the club and for Rob and Ryan in a lot of ways. And I've seen, you know, a lot of interviews that you've done where you get asked similar sort of questions. So I'm going to try my best to not ask you the same sort of questions that you always get. But what is the question that you're most bored of answering now?
Oh, it might be why Wrexham, which is a totally understandable question. So it makes to every sense that every different outlet wants to ask that question. But I do think I've explained it many times, and now you just have that thing of like, it feels, I'm like, oh God, is this so boring for anyone who's you know, clicked onto this to see if I say anything new or interesting. So possibly that.
So why Wrexham?
There you go. I think that was let me tell you the real truth. The top secret truth.
There's a gold mine under the racecourse, isn't there?
Yes, beneath the racecourse, there is a huge lithium deposit. Whoever controls the future.
I did wonder why HP got involved, but now suddenly it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you hear a lot of digging. If you see Chally go past with a giant sort of mole man style underground borer, then that's what's going on.
This is why the new cop stand's not started to be built then yet, is it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But actually, well, it has. That's the thing. There's a giant sort of, much like the top of the volcano and You Only Live Twice, that thing slides under the pitch and then we descend in the middle of the night. Get digging.
Brilliant. But it's it.
Are Rob and Ryan happy with the position where the club are as well at the moment? I'm sure they will be.
Yeah, no, I think they're ecstatic. I mean, it's you know, I think what has occurred has sort of exceeded everyone's wildest dreams. I mean, you know, Rob is a big dreamer and a big thinker, and is possessed with this kind of boundless confidence that whatever he does will be a huge success. But I think all of us were like, well, yeah, you know, we'll do well, and we sure will get, you know, an audience to follow the documentary, and we'll get more people into the racecourse. But you know, to be where we are now, and you know, perfect case in point this week, our Bristol Street Motors Trophy Group Game 3, getting 7,500 people into the racecourse is bananas. You know, I was actually sitting with two of the folk from Maximum Effort, which is Ryan's marketing company, who you know, help the club in any number of you know, if you watch any of the funny videos that go out on Twitter, they're all over that. You know, they help us to sort of cosset our sponsors and all this kind of thing. They're a sort of unofficial commercial arm of the club in a way, but they're often producers from there over. We've got a big sponsors weekend this weekend, so they're in town to press the flesh and say hi to everybody, and I'll hand out a tray of mini sausage rolls and everyone will be happy. Anyway, I was explaining to them about the EFL trophy, and you know, saying there was one guy who'd not been to the racecourse yet, and I was like, this is crazy. I mean, this is mad. This is, you know, these are games that historically draw sub 2,000 crowds because, you know, it's a competition that until you're into the last stages, a little bit like the FA Trophy, is not as high a priority. With all due respect to Bristol Street Motors Trophy, it doesn't get quite carry the same cachet as the league or the FA Cup. So to have that many people there is just bonkers, really. And that's an incredible yardstick, because we've obviously got very spoiled at having 10,000 people in a week for league matches. But you can see things like that where there's just this huge enthusiasm. And I talked to lots of people outside who are like, oh, we haven't been able to get a ticket to other games. So this is my daughter's first ever game, or, this is a chance for us all to come as a family, because often, dad and daughter have got season tickets, they can come, but mum and son can't, or whichever way around it is. So yes, they're ecstatic. Another long-winded answer. I've gone philosophizing around the houses, but yes, I know they're both thrilled.
And as well, the fact that it was obvious we would pick a fully changed side as well, and yet people are still wanting to come. And I just, you mentioned maximum efforts. That they must be looking at that and thinking this is an incredible example of sort of both on a small local level and on a big international level, an incredible spreading of the brand, if you will, as all sorts of incidental things you see that just make you think, gosh, we are big here. It's incredible how it's gone.
No, completely. And it's not just the glamour ties. It's not just the, big FA Cup games or Wrexham, Stockport County at the racecourse that people are coming out in droves to watch. So, no, I think it's on a very sort of minor, mundane level, I was in London, was that 2 weeks ago, I think? And over the course of the day, about 5 different people came up to me and were like, you the Wrexham man, sort of thing, or words to that effect. Or I got like up the town from across the street from someone. And there's a real sense that people are watching and following the story. I'm really struck by, I talked to some really nice lads outside of Mansfield who came bouncing up to me and were like, "You're that guy, aren't you? You're the fella from Wrexham." And I was like, "Oh yes, yeah." And they were just so nice and so complimentary about the documentary and complimentary about the club. And I talked to some Port Vale fans the other day who said exactly the same thing. And it's nice that we know football is full of rivalries, and I'm sure, please, by all means, people watching this chime in the comments telling us all to get absolutely stuffed. There's. I'm really struck by how positive a lot of the. Obviously, it's different. Online people say lots of horrible things, but they would never say to your face. I don't know if anyone around here knows anything about that. But the it's nice that people. It's great that it has sort of it's reaching. It's arriving in different areas, and even within the UK, even within what is such a traditionally tribal thing where you kind of don't want anyone else to do well. To have fans from the same division be friendly and nice, like my cigarette at halftime. Good on them. God bless me. Say I.
Well, I suppose I don't know whether you've kind of covered that with what I was going to ask, but what on a personal level has really surprised you about the town or the club or the whole experience?
I've always said that I will reiterate it, even though it's something that I said before. Often people say, "What's your favorite thing about it?" or "What do you love about Wrexham?" And this is, I give the sort of same answer here, which is, I just can't believe the welcome that I received when I first arrived, and was, no one knew who I was, but all they, if they could Google me, they'd be like, "It's an old Etonian comedy writer. Like, what's this going to be all about?" But the people were, I hope, quite early on, were like, "Well, he seems really enthusiastic about it. He seems to genuinely love it and the place, and I hope have his heart in the right place." And I would extend that out to, and you guys obviously have a great rapport with lots of our international listeners and things. But I've lost count of the number of times I've met people outside the race course or outside the turf or wherever it may be, who are in from, Topeka, Kansas, and they came to a Wrexham game in the summer, and they met some folk from Wrexham there and got chatting, and that they had come over and they were staying in people's houses. They're getting picked up from the airport by someone they had met on Twitter or on Red Passion or on, some Wrexham forum, the Facebook group. And that people in town have just welcomed this big influx of outsiders in such a big way. And I think it goes back to that thing of, if you love something and someone else loves something, you build a connection almost instantaneously that is really cool. So I think that's the thing that has most surprised me, and that I find most sort of impressive really, about Wrexham. What a welcoming place it has been.
I'd agree with you there, Humphrey, because a couple of friends of mine went to the game for the first time on Tuesday because they could get tickets. They'd never been to a Wrexham game before. And their words to me when they came back was how welcoming, friendly the people were in and around the ground, the stewards. They really, he went with his young daughter and he said having an exceptional experience going to the football ground and everybody.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, well, I'm thrilled by that. And it's, we obviously strive to do that. And when you have a big organization like ours, we can't always. There will be days where someone's had a bad day, and you'll get a short answer off a steward, or you'll get whatever it may be. But I think collectively, the club, but the town as well, as I say, is like having. I always remember going the first baseball game I ever went to. I went to see Red Sox versus Blue Jays in Boston in like 2006, five, I think it was. No, 6. Anyway, couldn't be less relevant to the story. Apologies for that aside. And sitting there with my friend Jamie, just absolutely baffled by what was going on. And some people around me, or around us, sort of started to twig that we were sort of whispering to each other, why is that guy out? I thought that was fine. Like, what happened? And they made us instantaneously. We were adopted, and everything was explained to us, and it built a lifelong love for baseball. And I associate baseball with that sort of kindness and that positivity. And so I'm really thrilled that our fans are delivering so much of that to all the people that are coming. And I'm really glad to hear that stewards and club staff were producing the same on Tuesday night for your friends.
I'll tell you something that I think has struck the old Wrexham fans, if you will, is that Rob, Ryan, and yourself come into it with that humility and then commit fully. So there was never talk from Rob and Ryan of any sort of preconceived notion of football. They were determined to call it football as well. And just talking about the stewardship of the club, that all plays beautifully for us because we want that in our owners. And then also, I noticed, I was listening the other day to the interview you did, but I've forgotten the name of it. It's good, the Scottish football podcast.
Saturday in the morning.
That's it. And there was a point where you talked about we got promoted in 1978, and it's only a little thing, but we like that. We know that you, Rob, Ryan, you're us. That you weren't aware of it in 1978, but it's all just like all football fans. That past is now part of you and us, and I think that goes a long way in proving the sort of sincerity of the whole thing.
No, absolutely. I think it's sort of. One of the greatest pleasures of this whole experience for me is so I'm, by day I was previously a Liverpool fan, and as you can tell from my appallingly posh home counties accent, I've got nothing to do with Liverpool at all. I went to boarding school, needed to pick a team, picked Liverpool, and it grew into a kind of a bit of an obsession. And so I was always very vulnerable to that occasionally very annoying thing people do, where like, oh yeah, I was there when we won the European Cup in 2005. People are like, we? Oh, were you playing, mate? Did you do X, Y, Z? But I also even had that thing where I was like, well, I'm also the plasticest Scouser in the universe. So it always those barbs landed a bit more effectively with me than they do with other people. And so to be part of something, to wear the badge into the ground and know that I am contributing to those things in my own small way, is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, it's the most exciting. I get such a thrill. Like each year when it's time for me to trundle down to Macron and get my new vest and my new big winter coat with a different sponsor on it, I'm giddy as a kid at Christmas. I can't wait to pull it on. This year I went the extra mile and was like, could you put HK on the thing? Like a real football man. Yes, okay, if you like, and it's my most prized possession. I love it. I because it's sort of, usually when I arrive every day, I go through the players' entrance and out and step out onto the pitch and just sort of have a look at the stadium every morning. because it remains just the coolest thing in the universe that I get to do that. So no, I mean, the we thing is, I feel very much everything that has come before has led to where we are now, and everything we do in the future is a continuation of that. So no, I'm very proud to say we and us and the club. But when you say the club in that way, where in your voice you've capitalized the T and the C, you know, the club. It's a big thing.
So you sort of famously, the story that you probably told 10 million times is that you were playing Football Manager when sort of Rob had sort of taken a bit of interest in what you were doing in football. Do you still play Football Manager, or is it a bit too close to home now?
Yeah,
it's a busman's holiday. It's what it is, and it's too easy. That's the thing, is that on Football Manager, you know, if you want to sign a player, you basically sort of go to them and offer a certain amount of money, and they'll accept at a certain point, by and large. And you don't get that thing of oh, well, actually, his girlfriend's just opened a mobile dog grooming company in down here, and they're really kind of going to concentrate on that, and or any number of the real human things. It's one of the things that I think the documentary has done well, albeit on a very, you can't capture this sort of the enormity of it, is to humanize our players and to humanize our staff, and to remind people that these guys are not. I noticed someone saying the other day, and it actually might have been you, Mark, on commentary of one of the games recently. I don't remember who said it, but it was on. I heard it maybe one of the podcasts that somewhere around about the place, was someone observing, Sam Dalby's, he's really kind of kicked on since he got his new contract. And it's well, yeah, that's a very human thing. He's a young man. He's living quite far away from home, and he's got a bit more security in his future, and he's got a vote of confidence from his manager that is more palpable than just chin up, mate, you're doing great. And I think his performances have changed to reflect that. And I think that, bring it up because lots of people were slagging Sam off at the start of the season, and Sam's currently, back in the good graces of the mouthy element of our fans who like to slag off players, and there'll be someone else will be in the barrel soon. But often what it is that people don't know is there's human things. There's things at home. You see Anthony Ford's story on the documentary. A lot of people didn't know about that. They knew he was out of the team, and I think, word got around that he had something very difficult going on at home. But the enormity of that is just inconceivable. And we have things like that happening all the time, because that's life. We have a big organization, and in and around it, things will happen. And it's quite a traditional football thing to sort of, it's a closed shop, and, we'll always respect the players' wishes. We'll, if they want people to know, they'll let us know, and we'll let people know. And if they don't, we don't. So, God, where did this question start?
Football Manager.
Yeah. So, yes. So none of that is reflected in Football Manager. There was a when I was at school, there was an urban myth that someone was playing, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got arrested for drink driving, and was, in the game. They got a message saying, "Oh no, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been arrested for drink driving, and he's not playing. He can't play for 6 months." But I don't believe that ever actually happened. It was just a sort of rumor that did the rounds. And yes, it doesn't. It's fun. I've been playing a lot more sort of because I do spend a lot of time on my own in my flat in Wrexham. I've been playing a lot more role-playing games on the internet. So that's been my sort of Dungeons and Dragons-y type things.
But that's just a search for Mythic Quest, isn't it? Really, to be fair,
it is. Yes, that is. Yeah, another busman's holiday for me. It turns out I have they just cycle through my interests.
I just love the fact that the new Football Manager's got Geraint Parry in it. That's absolutely
it does.
Yeah,
that is great. I did. To be fair, I did go on. My nephew had a copy last year, and I went on just to snoop around what it said about the club and who is, I did not make an appearance in there. I was quite annoyed. Couldn't find myself anywhere. But yes, it's just interesting getting sort of Ryan Reynolds. I think we fiddled around with it for a bit, and I can't remember what was it. We asked to sign a player for sort of, can we spend £15,000 on this player? And Ryan turned us down. I was like, that's normally we have to stop him from trying to buy players for too much money. This is unrealistic.
And was it 2 years ago that no matter what you did to fiddle around with it, Rob and Ryan always pulled out halfway through the first season.
Yes.
Which I wasn't amused by that at all, I'll tell you. Although I will say that I did buy Owen O'Connell before the actual club did for Wrexham.
Oh, sure.
So, if you want any consultation, I'm your man.
We just need to know who else you bought, Mark, just in case we want to get hold of him.
I'll have to, won't I? I'll have to get my head around that. Yeah. I may have got Tunnicliffe as well now I think about it.
Sure.
Was it Baldur's Gate 3 you've been playing? I just got asked because you mentioned...
It was and it is Baldur's Gate 3. I finished it now.
Is it decent? Because
it's one of the best games I've ever played.
You've right. I'll wait till Black Friday then, see if there's any sales.
On your Christmas list. It's really
Go on, Mark, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Obviously, there is a ludicrous scaling up that had to be done at the club. And I would assume that that's still a work in progress. Sean Harvey was on with us about a year and a half ago, and he was saying, you've got to understand that this is such a dramatic leap forwards that, there will be sometimes we have to be playing catch up. That must still be the case, I'd imagine, because we're growing so quickly.
No, absolutely. I mean, and you would know that as well as anyone because you've been around the club for a long time, and you were here when I arrived and have seen the steady addition of more and more members of staff in all different departments. And it's the analogy we've often used is like we're like a rocket ship that's sort of taken off at very high speed, and we're still trying to build the rocket at the same time. So you're sort of clinging onto the outside, trying to hammer heat resistive ablative plates to the outside of the rocket while it's roaring along at thousands of miles an hour. So it's no, completely. I mean, I think one of the things we've said recently is that the process, we are sort of aiming to try and get to the Premier League, and we need to get, at the moment we're sort of National League plus in terms of our infrastructure, or bottom half of League Two. And there remains tons and tons of work to get that. And, we have more and more people joining us every few weeks. This summer we hired something like 15 members of staff to create an academy sort of out of thin air. And they've done a brilliant job. And, we've just had our first audit in relation to the academy, and they did really, really well. We got given, I actually, funny enough, bumped into one of the auditors at Mansfield, who bounced up to me and was like, "Oh, I've done your audit," and he was very, very complimentary about what they had achieved in a very short space of time. So yes, every time I come back, because I live in America and I come back and forth, and every time I do, there's new people, there's new bits of equipment, there's new this, that, and the other. So it's all heading in the right direction. It takes longer than one thinks.
And the building of a new cop is important for that reason, as well as getting the attendance up, because the racecourse is atmospheric and wonderful and historic, but its infrastructure is ancient, and you need that new a new building with new space with like I said, better infrastructure, just to be able to function more efficiently, I think.
Completely. I mean, we as people will no doubt remember, we sort of blasted is a strong word, but we went up into the eaves of the Yale stand, of the Wrexham Lager stand as it is now, to put in the gym there. And that was like, oh great, we found a big chunk of space in here, we can use that. But what probably a lot of people don't know is that stand, which is where that's where the club shop is, that's where we have kitchens, that's where the players eat in the Cent when they're there during the week. That's where Geraint's office was, and then that moved out, and we put a ticket office in there. We moved Geraint into the pods on the car park, and then Geraint's gone back into another office in there. And but it's kind of divided into two chunks. You can't walk through from one end to the other. You have to climb up a set of stairs and go up and over and down, or out and around. And it's just we love it. It's magical, but it's quite a sort of inefficient place. So yes, the new cop stand, we have high hopes. Well, not high hopes. We have direct plans to stick a lot of office space in there, and a new club shop, and a lot of things. And then of course when we build the training ground, which also remains very much on the cards, that's probably where the football department will all go there. The academy, the first team, medical will all go out to that facility, wherever that winds up being, and we'll build a great big building there, and they'll all be in there. So you'll have sort of club administrative staff will be at the racecourse, and the football department will all be elsewhere, probably much to the relief of both parties.
My wife wants you to build a training ground right behind our house because there's going to be a huge housing estate built there, and we're going to have a training facility. So if you could put in a good word, that'd be fantastic.
I'll see what I can do.
And I can just hop over the fence then to spy.
Yeah. Yes, perfect.
Well, we're slowly running out of time, so we'll wrap this up for you, Humphrey. Let you get off and kill some goblins or orcs or whatever it is on a Baldur's Gate that you kill. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. One final question: which player smells the nicest?
Hey.
Oh yes. Okay. Well, it's going to be hard to look past Ben Foster because an international scene was created by my wife, waxing too lyrical about how good Ben Foster smelt when she gave him a hug when they were in, I think it was in San Diego, actually, that happened. And everyone sort of crowded round and pressed in on Ben to give him a good sniff. He did smell very nice. But that said, he doesn't play for us anymore, so you have to try and pick another one. Let me think. I mean, I'll listen. It's difficult to say. I don't know that I have a favorite smelling player. I'll say my favorite player is Ben Tozer. Ben gives a good hug. He's a tall lad, so that's nice for me. And also, I think it's a bit of a treat for him because when you're a big centre back, it's probably been a long time since you got hugged by someone taller than you, and it reminds you of your dad. So I maintain. They may not maintain this, but I maintain that our centre backs particularly like getting a hug off old HK. So I will claim that, whether or not it's true.
Oh, brilliant! Well, thanks very much, Humphrey. Where have you got anything you need to plug or anything that where people can follow you?
No, do you know what I am going to plug? I do have something I'm going to plug. And that is the Wrexham Miners Project, please. So I'm very, very honoured to get asked to be patron of Wrexham Miners Project last week. And just in case anyone following this doesn't know about it, it's an organisation that is dedicated to resurrecting and preserving the old Miners Rescue Centre in Wrexham, which is where they used to train people to effect rescues in the mines all across North Wales. And it's an incredible old building, grade 2 listed. The previous owner was not great. I'm going to say that. That seems you can't get in too much trouble for saying that. Tried to knock it down with a JCB digger type thing. And this incredible group of volunteers, many of whom have connections to the mines and many of whom don't, are restoring it, and they are putting it to incredible use as a community hub. And we at the football club have been working with them quite closely in various different ways. And as I say, I was very honoured to be asked to be patron of it. And it's a brilliant thing. And if you're looking for Christmas presents, they've got a great shop with all sorts of weird and wonderful Wrexham Miners Project things in it. And everything you give will go towards preserving this wonderful building and all the brilliant people inside it.
And Rob's also promised to bring that wheel back to the racecourse when we build that new stand as well, hasn't he?
He has, and that's the plan. Yeah. So hopefully, I keep saying hopefully, but I mean, when this is a British thing. I mean, hopefully it's going to happen. There's going to be this great big plaza out the front of the COP. I will say hopefully, because this isn't that hopefully will be a really great place for people to congregate, and I'm hoping that there'll be like food trucks there, and be a great sort of fan zone area before people get into the stadium. And the wheel is going to go up there, so it's going to be preserved there in perpetuity, because yes, the connection between club and mining community is very strong, as we know.
Great stuff. Well, thanks very much. After this, we are going to be talking about the Mansfield game.
I'm Gareth Owen, and this is Dragonheart.
Well, thanks again to Humphrey for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to him. But another thing that was an absolute pleasure was that Mansfield game, Mark, wasn't it? How was it? You were there, weren't you, commentating? Yeah. How was it at the game?
It was great once I evaded the danger of electrocution. As my extension plug exploded, and I'm not exaggerating. A big blue flash came up. It was crazy, but the performance was equally explosive. But I mean, we were just at it from the start, and when we played there in the league, we were a bit more conservative, or maybe should I say, weren't able to get out of our half that much because Mansfield are a very good team. But in this game, we were at them from the start. We were making chances from the start. We could have had a few more were it not for the brilliance of Christy Pym in goal for them. And frankly, 2-1 flattered them, I thought.
Yeah, I'd really agree with you. I mean, we could have been 3 or 4 up by half time. But for their keeper, excellent performance by the Reds away at Mansfield, where they struggled for a draw in the league. Mansfield were a far better team there in the league game, I believe. But Saturday they were impressive.
Yeah, I've been looking at the data, the League Two data, and something that interests me is that Okonkwo has got, well, firstly, he's top of the league in terms of goals conceded per minute and things like that, but also his save completion is the best in the league. And I think that's partly because he's really good, but I think it's also because we are defending a lot better now. And I think that Mansfield game was an example. They didn't get many chances in our penalty area. We restrict teams mostly to shots outside the box, which Okonkwo is going to fancy himself to save. And I think that's a big part of why he has such a good save completion percentage, because we really are restricting the amount of clear chances teams are getting against us now.
Especially when you think we've got so many defenders out injured at the moment, and we have to reshuffle it all. It's impressive.
Absolutely, it's terrific, isn't it? But I thought it was a great performance. I thought that Mansfield played well. They are clearly a very good team. But a number of people who said to me afterwards, that's a good result for you because they're the best team in the division. And I was thinking, well, okay, I think they're brilliant. But we just won at Notts County. We've just won at Mansfield. Maybe we're the best team in this division, eh?
Apart from Stockport.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah.
Every dog has its day. Wait till they get back to ours.
It's an interesting one with Mansfield because, and I'm not saying this is them because they've clearly started really well, but there are always teams in every league that start very well and then kind of tail off at some point. It'll be interesting to see how 2 games on the bounce that they've lost now. It'll be interesting to see how they react to that in the sort of the medium to long term. But yeah, clearly very good. But we were just better. I mean, we're getting into the parky zone now, aren't we? We've gone through the difficult sort of beginning to the season, and we're now slowly starting to get into that period where we grind results out. That Sam Dalby goal, though, I could watch that all day, every day. There's just something really satisfying when a player like absolutely thumps it and it doesn't go over the bar. It just goes straight into the back of the net. Brilliant. I'm not leading onto anything with that. I just wanted to say it because I love that goal so much.
But I do think it leads on to something very important, like Humphrey says. Dalby, brilliant performance. Criticism he's had earlier in the season, I can't quite fathom. He had a bit of a down period, but that was a hell of a performance. I mean, the finish, if it hadn't been, most of Pym's good saves came from him. He hit another one that hit the bar, similar sort of effort. He was tremendous, absolutely tremendous.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say, Mark, after what Humphrey said, the extension of his contract, just giving that boost of confidence for his future. And I'm sure he'll be starting on Saturday against Gillingham.
There's no Mullin for Gillingham, is there, as well? That's the other thing. Right. Who do we replace Mullin and McLean with? What an impact they made on Tuesday.
Well, I mean, McLean's a straight swap with Mendy, assuming Ford's fit enough to go at right back, isn't it? Or maybe, McAlinden goes in at right back and Mendy goes there. But, the striker situation, no Stephen Fletcher due to injury, which is a huge loss, I think. So it's either Bickerstaff or Palmer. Do you go for someone who is more of a like-for-like replacement for Mullin in the sense that Bickerstaff, he's not exactly the same sort of player, but he's more similar to Mullin than Palmer is? Or do you go with the two bruisers up top, Neil?
That's a really difficult question. I would imagine that Parker would go for both Palmer and Dolby on, and have Bickerstaff on the bench to bring on. Because I see him along a bit more the closer lines than Mullin, the way his pace, his skill, but I can imagine we'll start with the two big lads up front on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Although I think Bickerstaff's development is one of the most exciting things about our squad. But firstly, Palmer has played very well this season as well, and I don't think it'd do any harm to have him back in the team. And while they're both good in the air, I think they're very different types of strikers. I think Dolby is more, breaking down the channels or running at people from deeper, and Palmer is more, if he pulls out to make spaces, he's good at turning, and his passing is good, and he's more of a monster target man, if you will. He can beat up centre backs, whereas Dolby isn't quite that physically sort of intimidating. He is physically intimidating, but not as much as Palmer. And let's not forget that when we switch to that diamonds midfield, when we're trying to really go for it, we usually have Palmer and Dolby up front with Mullin in the hole. So they have played up front. I think they can play together, and I think that's a logical move. Although I won't be sort of spitting my dummy out if Bickerstaff starts, because I rate him very highly.
Yeah, so do I, Mark. And let's say going back to that diamond, I think we reverted back to that on Tuesday night when we played Port Vale, and it worked so well.
Yeah. So I'm in full agreement. And do you know what? As much as you never want to see your best players suspended, it probably wouldn't hurt for Mullin to have a week's rest. It's just that he's undroppable, isn't he? If he's fit, he's undroppable. So to actually for him to have a little bit of an opportunity to have a week off, I'm sure he won't agree, but I don't think when you start coming to the business part of the season, Christmas, the winter period's always tough, isn't it? To have him have a little bit of a rest isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. But we'll get back to the women's game in a minute. But the Port Vale match, a much changed side. It was a very interesting game, Neil, wasn't it? I got to say one person that really impressed me actually was a Port Vale player. Was it Walters, their number 24 in the middle? He looked absolutely quality, and I think for our young lads and their young lads, that would have been an invaluable experience, wouldn't it, Neil?
Yeah, it was great for the young lads to come on and have first team experience. But first half, I thought we were totally outplayed. Whether it was just tactical, and Parky said, just absorb pressure the first half and see how we get on. But Port Vale were totally dominant in the first half, and deserved their 1-0 lead. They played some really skillful football, and as you say, that midfielder was superb. His skill, his dribbling into the box, and second half we came out. For whatever reason, a totally different team. We were all geared up and ready to go, just like the Wrexham of old.
And I think that is because I don't think for a second that Parkinson did want them to absorb pressure. I think he was unhappy with what he saw in the first half, and so at half-time, he's told them in no uncertain terms that they have to improve. And I think that's what we saw, personally. Occasionally you see people criticising Parkinson for being sort of defence-minded in the first half, and I think it's just the other team has taken the initiative and we've backed off a little bit, but I don't think he wants us to do that. And in the second half, I thought started really well. Totally different feel of the game. But we didn't make that many chances during that period. It was good that we turned the game round, but then bringing on McLean, Mullin and Jones, that just stepped it up another level again, didn't it? And at that point, Port Vale, they were reeling, weren't they?
Oh, McLean was a sensation when he came on. I think that's the best 20 minutes I've seen him play all season. He was absolutely superb, and whether he should be played in as a winger there all the time, that could be his position a lot further up the pitch than the left back.
I'm curious about that as well. I mean, in essence, he played up front, didn't he? Mullin was behind him in Bickerstaff, and he was popping up both flanks, down the middle. He was everywhere. But we can't experiment with that on Saturday, of course, because he's suspended as well. Oh, well. But he was...
It gives us... Yeah, he was. And it's interesting because it gives us options if, Mendy, Ford, Barnett, and himself are all fit, like Phil Parkinson's kind of been lucky's the wrong word because you're never lucky when players are injured, but he hasn't had the selection headache that he would have had if Barnett and Ford had been fit because Mendy and McLean have both had to play, haven't they? But it is interesting that will, that little experiment kind of opens the door for when all four of those players are fit. It's another avenue, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, he clearly invested heavily in the summer on squad depth and quality squad depth, and we can see it now. The advantage of it, we have if you look at how many players we got out, we have an injury crisis, proper injury crisis, but we've won 5 in a row through that. Which is just phenomenal, really. When if you think of previous Wrexham teams, if we had this many players out, there'd be kids making their debuts all over the place. Instead, we're going to win 3-0 at Crewe with our backup team against theirs. We beat Port Vale from a higher division with our backup team against theirs. We've got unbelievable strength and depth. It's remarkable, and I think as well, word of credit for some of the young lads that they have given a game to. I mean, in goal, goodness me, McNicholas. Ludicrously good. He had 2 games. He looks like a proper prospect. Aaron James has done very well in a couple of different positions. Dan Davis has come in now, and he's thrown his hat into the ring. It's wonderful to see these youngsters getting opportunities and showing they can hold their heads above water. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more with you, Mark. I think it's a great test for the young lads, and if the injury crisis keeps going on as is, we might be using them in the first team before long. So, as you say, there's so many players out injured at the moment, and it's a credit to the squad and the team that we're still, winning games and scoring freely at the moment. So, well done to the squad and to Phil Parkinson for the team he puts out there.
See, 10 years ago, if you had this many injuries, I'd be bringing my boots to the game. You never know. They wouldn't have to register me because I'd be such a handicap. So I could get a game.
So that's injury crisis aside and Mark potentially playing in goal aside.
Did I say in goal? Maybe I want to go.
Well, you let us know that you are an ex-goalkeeper, Mark.
Oh, I am an ex-goalkeeper. Yeah. I'm an appalling outfield player as well. But, it's like the school's policy with me. Put me where I can cause the least harm. And I'll stay
there. Brilliant. But that's 2 cup competitions that we've progressed through. We'd have gone through to in the League Cup if it weren't for a set of penalties. We're taking these cup competitions seriously, aren't we?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the home draw against Yeovil?
I mean, on one hand, it's always a positive to have somebody who's playing in a lower division than you to a degree, because by the very nature of the way the Football League works, you're supposed to be better than them. But Yeovil are on a good run of form at the moment. They've invested pretty well. They're top of the National League South, aren't they, from what I can remember? They've got Jake Hyde there, who would probably love to come to the racecourse and shut a few people up, in his eyes anyway, I'd imagine. And
we cemented relegation last season as well, didn't we? So
what's that? Sorry,
we cemented their relegation last season as well.
We did. So the players that are still there have got a bit of motivation, and we saw last year, when we played Blythe and Farnborough, that we actually made a meal of those games more than we did when we played higher opposition. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but I do think there are some caveats to that. And I wasn't doing backflips when they got drawn out of the hat.
For me,
at least it's a home tie.
Yes, yeah,
a home tie against team 2 divisions below us, and we're a team of this level of quality. You have got to see that, I think, as a very good draw. Now, that's not to belittle Yeovil, because they now get the chance to come and show what they're made of. And as you say, Bill, teams from lower divisions have been able to do that. It's their chance to do something epic. To be fair, Yeovil in the past have beaten Arsenal in the Cup, so it won't be the first time for them. But yeah, they can come and they can have a popper causing a proper upset, and that's exciting for them. from our point of view, it's a job that we ought to get done. And in our aim then, I'd always want to draw like this because I never quite understand it when people say in the early rounds, oh, let's hope we draw Portsmouth or something like that, because that then is a tough game to get through. Whereas I want to get to the third round. I want my tough game to get through to be Man United. Actually, no, that's not the case anymore, is it? Man City.
No.
I wouldn't want Man United to pick their backup team against us because I'd rather fancy our chances against the first team. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So it's exciting times. I'm really glad that we're taking the cups, should I say, seriously. I know the trophy has been our backup squad, but when your backup squad includes Luke Young and Jordan Davis and Will Boyle, you know, like you were alluding to earlier, Mark, it shows the strength in depth, and it's not really like an old school, you know, when Arsene Wenger started playing the kids, and it really was the kids in sort of cup competitions. This is a very strong B team, and we are absolutely taking it seriously by playing those players. It's positive, and it'd be nice to go to Wembley to be contesting the Bristol Street Motors Cup, wouldn't it?
I would contend as well that Parkinson, okay, he knows he's rotating his squad, but I think he's got trust in all the players in the squad as well. Yeah, I think he feels that team he put out on Tuesday can definitely do the job, especially knowing that Port Vale were liable to do the same. So yeah, I think he's got faith in those players. I don't think in his mind it's so much about first team, second team. I think it's about keeping lots of players ticking over and ready to step up to the highest level when they need them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, after this, we are going to be talking about the Wrexham women's game against Cardiff Met. And we're going to look ahead to the games this weekend.
I'm Steve Dale, and this is Dragonheart.
Well, it's I feel like we're being ditched every time we go to a break. Someone drops off.
Neil, where are you?
I think he's got a pie to attend to, Mark.
He stays for the glory, you know. He hangs around for Humphrey, and then when it's just us two, unbelievable, isn't it?
We're not glamorous enough for him, are we?
No, fair point.
You know, Disney's Mark Griffiths. Maybe he could start being big time Neil Williams.
Yes.
So Wrexham women's, Mark, Cardiff Met. How was that game? I didn't manage to watch it. I won't make excuses, but the baby is not far off, so my life is drowning in life admin at the moment.
Fair enough. When Cardiff met Wrexham, well, it didn't go well for Cardiff, put it that way. For me, this is just a continuation of, like I said when we were talking about Humphrey, that we're ahead of the curve of the women's team insofar as this is supposed to be a season of consolidation, and here we are 3 points off the top. I mean, it's brilliant. I banged on about a double header with Aberystwyth and TNS. Didn't call it a triple header because, you know, Cardiff Met are seen as a team that will be in the top three, and us, Aberystwyth and TNS pre-season, you'd expect to be fighting for fourth place. Cardiff Met have had a bad start of the season, and we just made it a whole lot worse. And so they're really not looking great at finishing the top half. They're a team that in the 2010s, I kept saying this in the commentary and apologise for repeating myself, but in the 2010s, they won the title 5 times. This is a big, big team.
Wow.
And we went to their place and beat them 3-0. And by the end of it, we deserved it. It was terrific. We had to withstand pressure in the first half, but we dug in. It's got to be said as well, because it's important to point out, our first choice keeper couldn't play. Our second choice keeper wasn't available. We threw our 16-year-old youth team keeper, Chloe Ankers, in. She was tremendous. She was spot on.
Yeah, she got on the Adran team of the week as well, didn't she?
Excellent. Good. Her handling was really good as well. You know, there were a couple of shots that, don't get me wrong, they were saves I think I'd expect her to make. But it's like, you know, when a Conquo, it's a good comparison. When a Conquo gets something drilled at him and you think he'll probably have to parry this away or push it over the bar or something, and he just catches it calmly. She did a couple of those, and that really impressed me. She was, she made good decisions. She was really quick off a line, made 2 or 3 really important interventions where if she'd been shy and stayed back, they'd have been in. And I just thought, what a tremendous performance by her, and a tremendous performance by the team as well. The second half, having got stuck in and absorbed a lot of pressure, we tore into them and we tore them apart ultimately. And it was just a hugely gratifying game. Rosie Hughes scores again, of course.
Of course.
But
well, speaking of which, it's going to be a shame to see her suspended, isn't it? It was 2 yellow cards, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was a bit unfortunate, shall we say, because the first yellow was a sort of petty one, really, for kicking the ball away. And I'm starting to get a bit bothered by the way that, we've had this early season clank down on time wasting, but now they're just all forgetting it and they're putting more normal time, amounts of added time on. And yet anyone kicking the ball away is all automatically gets a yellow card thing seems to have stuck. And I think that's a bit inconsistent. You see players blatantly time wasting and the refs are clearly thinking, oh, just add time on at the end. And then you see she's kicked the ball away, with 3-0 up right at the end of the game. Is it really time wasting? Because the result wasn't going to change, but she gets that yellow and then, okay, as you're on the yellow, maybe don't go in for that tackle, but she did. It's a shame, but I've also got to say, she's phenomenal. But we've got goal-scoring players either side of her in the front 3. And we've got Ava Suckley as an obvious replacement for her through the middle, who scored 6 goals against Betheli and got another one in her first game after her suspension in this match. It's only a 1-game suspension anyway, so she'll be missing at Swansea, a big game. But, let's see what Suckley can do, because you can't complain about what she's done so far for us.
No, absolutely. And, you were talking last week when we ran on about all the options that we've got up front. And there's no point in having those options if you're not going to be able to utilize them at some point in the season. It's a shame that Rosie's suspended, but it's an opportunity for whoever gets the nod to come in and show their worth, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So, and we've got attacking substitutes as well, like Whitefoot, like Spearing. We've got a good range of attacking players. We're currently playing Rebecca Pritchard, who is tremendous as a right-sided attacking player, at fullback. We've got a lot of options if we want to reshuffle a bit. We've got a lot of options, a lot of good players up front who've got goals in them. And Rosie will be able to play on Sunday because it's in the Cup on Sunday at home to Llandudno. So a bit like the Oval game, a home game against lower division opposition, although Llandudno have always been a good quality side at the second level down. So, that'll be interesting as well for us, a proper cup tie. But like I say, Rosie can play in that and, hopefully she can stick a couple in before she has to take a break.
Yeah, absolutely. So Cup this weekend and then Swansea the weekend after for the women's side. It's all looking I have to say it now, but excuse the pun, but it's looking all rosy, isn't it, at the moment for the the women's side. I even feel embarrassed about myself after saying that. The men's team are playing Gillingham on Saturday. That should be a tough test. But I can't remember exactly where Gillingham are, but they've been a bit of an odd team this season, haven't they?
Absolutely. Won their first game, the first 4 games of the season 1-0. And we're top of the league.
That's right, yeah.
And, everybody's thinking, these are doing a lot better than we expected. And since then, they've had a weird, rough patch. They lost a couple of games, sacked their manager, a move which a lot of people are shocked at. I mean, they were 4 points off the top when they sacked their manager. But there were also a lot of people complaining that the style of football was unattractive and that, they managed to keep 4 clean sheets and win 1-0. But once they started conceding goals, that, the creativity was an issue. And they are the lowest scorers in the division. So they're mid-table. Well, they're just off the playoffs now, aren't they?
So I've just got the table up. They're in 9th and they've lost 3 of the last 5, but won the other 2.
Well, they've got a new manager, Stephen Clements, who was appointed before these 2 cup games that we've had as well. So he's won at Hereford, lost at home to Fulham under 21s, but he picked a backup team for that match so we could have a look at all his players. They're talking positively about him, wanting to get the ball down and play. And to be fair, under their previous manager, Harris, they did try to get the ball down and play. So maybe we won't have to change our game plan all that much because we just got superb results away to 2 of the sides who are the best at keeping the ball and building patiently. It'd be interesting, but, they're the sort of team we need to be looking to beat if we're actually going to go straight up this season. No offense to them, but they're on form. We won 5 in a row. We've got to win this game, I think.
Absolutely, and it's no disrespect to any side. If you want to go up, you have to beat the vast majority of the teams in the division, don't you? So it's going to be an interesting one, and we've kind of got that weird dynamic now where previously teams would be coming to us, and look, it's a stereotype that I don't always quite believe in, but it would be like, go to the likes of Wrexham and put on a bit of a show because you're this smaller team. Gillingham am I right in saying they have a slightly bigger stadium than ours? They've been in League One not that long ago, so they've played, their fans and maybe some of the players that are there will be used to playing the likes of Portsmouth. So, yes, we do have a bit of a target on our head, but it's going to be interesting to see how they react as a club to the atmosphere, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting because they're talking a good game. They're talking about coming here and giving it a good go. The manager and players all seem to feel like the right way to play is to try to be positive and attack. So firstly, they could give us a bloody nose. But secondly, often teams that, you come out at us, you will leave gaps. So it'll be quite interesting to see exactly how it goes. I mean, I can't see a new manager wanting to come in and shut up shop in a way. I think he wants to be positive by the way he's talking. So if they go toe-to-toe with us, I'm going to get another 5-goal thriller, are we?
I as long as it swings our way, Mark, I wouldn't say no to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, as always, Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you and to our 2 ghostly apparition friends who seem to have disappeared, Humphrey and Neil. You can find us on all the usual social medias, the good ones and the bad ones. Please like, subscribe, share. Send a giraffe to get it to your mates. However that works, I don't know. I hear there's lots of giraffes that are very knowledgeable in technology these days, so I'm sure they can help you out.
What's going on? What's happening?
It's been a long week, Mark. And find us on Twitter, etc. This has been I've been Bill Long. This has been Mark Griffiths. They were Humphrey Ker and
Neil Williams.
Neil Williams. Yeah, couldn't remember his name. This is Dragonheart.
Nice.
I'm Mia Roberts, and this is Dragonheart.